All right. Hi there. Today is Monday and it's 2 p.m. and let's hang out for 15 minutes. I'm gonna start actually maybe a new routine where we take 2 minutes of silence in the beginning of this to center ourselves and leave some room for people to join. So yeah, I will ring the bell at 2:02 and we can get started. Hi, Pyle. All right. So today, I'm so glad to be doing this. And yesterday I talked about compassion and some practices on how to cultivate compassion and notice that we're not alone. So I'll record these and repost it on Facebook if you miss any. So today, I've been thinking about what might be practices and kind of things to point towards in this time that we're in. And one of the conversations I had yesterday was around PTSD and kind of what happens when chaos happens again, or something, an uncomfortable situation happens where you've been through it in the past and what might come up, and maybe this sense of deja vu or living in the past. So it's not even what's going on here in the present. It may be some compounding things in the past. I'm definitely not a doctor, but I wanted to show a few things that I've kind of learned. And what triggered this was actually a conversation with my mom 2 weeks ago when the grocery stores were a little nuts and there was a lot of panic buying and lineups. What happened was she called me right after and she said, I've never seen something like this. I've never seen it like this since 1975 in Saigon, or Ho Chi Minh City, right before the war ended and Saigon was about to fall. It was the same. It was the same kind of anxiety, stress, fear, and panic buying at grocery stores. And lots of difficult emotions come up. And, us here in Canada or the US, we definitely, there's a lot of refugees and immigrants, and it's important to be aware of when things get re-triggered. And in my experience of re-triggering trauma and stress, kind of two people come in mind. Like there's Peter Levine, and I'll read a little bit from this book today, in an unspoken voice. And he talks about how the body releases trauma and restores goodness. And he has multiple books, but the whole premise is that the body holds on to the memory of trauma where the mind might not have caught up yet. And overall, what I've kind of experienced, and I know many people have experienced this, is in the process of something traumatic happening, what happens is there is a disconnect between the head and the body, and if not kind of if there's not the tools available and the support and the help, what happens is this disconnect becomes further and further apart. It's almost like you're operating only in your head with no body. And maybe some people can kind of resonate with that. And that disconnect, actually the reason for the disconnect is beneficial in the beginning. When you are being attacked or when you are in danger, you don't want to think about the million things that you can do. The body just kind of kicks in and is like, all right, I'm out. I'm going to do this. I'm going to leave the situation and be safe. And you just run, and that serves you. What doesn't serve you is to continue to stay in that mindset when the danger has been gone. So a few weeks ago in my medical Qigong class, we learned about trauma. And they give very specific step-by-step of what happens when trauma happens and how it affects your body and your organs. So the first thing that happens is, some event happens that hurts you. And the first thing that happens is it's almost like a shock, and that for a split second, you're paralyzed. And that shock, when we think of shocks, it's really like the heart gets shocked. And it's funny, if a heart stops beating, you shock it and it comes back to life. But when you shock it, it also stays still as well. So that's the first step. There's a shock, and your heart takes it. And then your emotions start coming up, whether it's anger or fear or anxiety. Each of these emotions actually live in different organs. So anger lives in the liver, fear lives in the kidneys, and anxiety lives in the spleen. And then what happens is we react to these emotions. And so whether or not that becomes yelling or crying or screaming or running or freezing, these are all emotions that are triggered by this. These are all reactions triggered by the emotion. And then what happens after that reaction, in a healthy way, there's some kind of resolution. Like someone apologizes, the traumatic event is over, and there's no memory being stored of the trauma. And that's the ideal way. But many times it's unhealthy. And what happens in no resolution cases is that memory, that reaction gets stored in an organ. And over time, if you get re-traumatized and re-triggered, the same conditions happen. What happens is there's blockages that are created in these organs. And the whole practice of medical Qigong is to kind of release these blockages and kind of reverse this process of trauma being inflicted in a safe way where layers can be shed and things like self-love and practices of self-acceptance and forgiveness kind of come into play. And like I said, I'm really a fan of Peter Levine as well, and somatic healing. And the reason why I like it, maybe I'll just read from it. And I feel like in my own process, I've been really trying to integrate the body and the mind, knowing that trauma does separate them, and to kind of move them in towards each other and have them connected again. It really serves us. And we were born with a mind and a body and hands, and so an integrated version of us just works better than a non-integrated one. So here's a part of the book in a chapter called Mapping the Body, Mending the Mind. It says, having an intimate relationship with and understanding of your physical sensations is critical because they, in signaling action, guide you through the experience and nuances of your life. If one has been traumatized, however, one sensation can become signals not for effective action, but rather for fearful paralysis, helplessness, and misdirected rage. When some of one's bodily signals become harbingers of fear, helplessness, impotent rage, and defeat, he or she is typically avoided like the plague, at a dear cost mentally, emotionally, and physically. While attempting to shut down distressing sensations, one pays the price of losing the capacity to appreciate the subtle physical shifts that denote discomfort, satisfaction, or warning of clear and present danger. Sadly, as a result, the capacity for feeling pleasure, garnering relevant meaning, and accessing self-protective reflexes also shuts down. You can't have it both ways. When the feelings of dread are held at bay, so are the feeling of joy. The good news is that human beings are generally flexible and resilient. We are ordinarily able to learn from and integrate a variety of life experiences. These experiences, whether uplifting or downbeat, flow easily through our mind and body stream of consciousness as long as we are not chronically over or under aroused. The body and mind keeps flowing through new encounters with vitality, bouncing back into the stream of things unless there's a significant disruption. In this case, the person is knocked off that normal course, whether it's from a single episode such as a disaster, an accident, surgery, or rape, or from a chronic stressor such as an abuse or ongoing marital stress. When such disruptions fail to be fully integrated, the components of that experience become fragmented into isolated sensations, images, and emotions. This kind of splitting apart occurs when the enormity, the intensity, suddenness of, duration of what happened cannot be defended against, coped with, or digested. Personal vulnerabilities such as age, genetics, and gender also account for the psychic implosion. The result of this inability for the body and mind to integrate is trauma, or at the very minimum, disorientation, a loss of agency, and or a lack of direction. Trapped between feeling too much, overwhelmed and flooded, or feeling too little, shut down and numb, and unable to trust the sensations, traumatized people can lose their way. They don't feel like themselves anymore. Loss of sensation equals a loss of sense of self. As a substitute for genuine feelings, trauma sufferers may seek experiences that keep them out of touch, such as sex, succumbing to compulsions, addictions, miscellaneous distractions that might prevent one from facing a now dark and threatening inner life. In this situation, one cannot discover the transitory nature of despair, terror, rage, and helplessness, and that the body is designed to cycle in and out of these extremes. Helping clients cultivate and regulate the capacity for tolerating extreme sensations through reflective self-awareness while supporting self-acceptance allows them to modulate their uncomfortable sensations and feelings. They can now touch into intense sensations and emotions for longer periods of time. Once a client has the experience of going within and coming back out without falling apart, his or her window of tolerance builds up upon itself. This happens through achieving a subtle interplay between sensations, feelings, perceptions, and thoughts. I believe that the people who are most resilient and find the greatest peace in their lives have learned to tolerate extreme sensations while gaining the capacity for reflective self-awareness. Although this capacity develops normally when we are very young, one can learn it at any time in their life, thankfully. Hey, Pyle! Hey, Chris. Thanks for joining. All right. So after that reading, I wanted to show you kind of a few really easy exercises to kind of start integrating the mind with the body. And 4 of the places that we hold a lot of tension all the time is, well, at first, our fists. So one of the exercises that I learned is if you look at your fists and you want to clench your fists, and this happens when you're really angry or really fearful, and then you unclench your fists. And right now, when you look at your fists and do this, it's like you're seeing it. Your mind is seeing what your body is doing. So when you notice that, notice what happens. Notice all the things that you feel with your eyes open when you clench your fists and open your fists. Clench, open. What muscle, what bone, what things are you feeling when you do that? And then now try closing your eyes when you're doing the same. Clenching your fist and opening up your hand. Clenching your fists and then relaxing your hand. And then notice when you open your eyes, what's the difference? Like, what's the difference in what you're feeling and sensing when you're cleansing and relaxing versus when you're closing your eyes and doing this? And if you do this, maybe if you can catch yourself even when your fists are clenched and you do this, it starts tying that whole mind and body, that like your mind and body are noticing that you're doing the same thing rather than your mind wanting you to punch someone or clenching your fists. And it kind of just gets you right away into the present moment in doing something that usually is kind of kept in the shadow, this clenching of fists. Another place you hold tension is your jaw. So even if you open your, this exercise is more like I probably will look funny, but it's like pretend you're a goldfish and you're opening and closing your mouth as if you're breathing in air like a goldfish, like just a little bit of time, like. And then you try to increase it a little more, and just try to feel if there's tension around your jaw. And that's kind of another place where we hold a lot of tension. Another one where I hold a lot of tension, especially, is this part kind of right in the middle of your, they call it a jade pillow in medical Qigong. I think the English name for it is like a, I don't know, I'm not even going to pretend I know. But it's this area between kind of where your skull and your neck, that connecting joint. And a lot of headaches happen because that area is very tense. So anytime you want to give yourself a massage there, feel it too. Like feel when you press it, feel if the tension is dissipating when you give yourself a little massage in that hole. That's another place. And another place we hold tension is our shoulders. So another way to notice when, our shoulders are kind of up and stressed, try to like drop them down. Try to relax them. And also do it while, right now I can see myself, so I can see my shoulders going up and down. Do it in front of a mirror so you can kind of connect yourself. Like you know what relax means in your body and you know what tense means. Relax, tense. And then do it with your eyes closed as well, so you can kind of notice what's the difference between you being very stressed and very tense versus relaxing. All right, so that's what I wanted to share today. Hopefully this helps you with your day. And maybe just notice these signs of tension going on in your body. And I know it's not we're not going to resolve all these things within these 15-minute breaks, but I think my goal is just awareness and things that you might be able to do during the stressful time, and at least it'll relieve you in the moment and kind of build these awareness muscles. So that's all I have for today. If you have any questions, definitely type them out and I'll answer them. And if anything, I will see you tomorrow. Bye.